playing d4 and playing with the two bishops.
Winning formula. And
whatever it may be. Here we go. Handshake and the battle for first.
Knight f3 on the board.
d5, g3. So it's coming back. Remember Magnus's first World Championship match against Vichy Anand, where it was Vichy on the black side making an early kingside fianchetto as well. E5, however, that's a very, very different approach, and you might just say it's a reverse Perk defense.
I was going to say King's Indian, but okay. Perk defense it is, yeah. And we see the queens come off the board.
A little bit surprise decision for me that queen takes d1, rook takes d1. I consider this a very useful tempo for white. You get to play knight a3 and c3, and you're the first to take command of the d-file.
Just to point out that there is a trap here for black. If white plays h3,
okay, let's go.
Then let's exactly ask questions. Then bishop takes knight, bishop takes bishop, knight jumps into d4, and would you look at that? You are targeting the bishop and the c2 pawn.
Whoops! So in order to avoid that variation, Magnus has played the move c to c3 just to stop the knight from ever venturing into the d4 square. Knight f6, and I think it's now time to play h3 because there's the tactic that you pointed out isn't on tap.
Yeah. And
another move that I personally find very attractive is knight to a3 immediately. The idea behind knight to a3 is to intimate that knight b5 and knight c4 are issues. Deal with them. h3, let's go.
h3, right. And this is a question for Wei. Does he lose time with bishop e6? Or does he just say, in this type of position, one open line, it's relatively closed, knights are better than bishops. Bishop takes knight. I'm a big fan of the bishop pair.
Right.
So I'm looking at bishop e6. What about you?
Bishop e6 it is. And he did hesitate, let's be fair. I mean, it wasn't completely a certainty that the bishop really did belong on e6. Knight g5. Chasing the bishop back to these, and Magnus did not go for the knight a3, knight b5. Rather, he wanted to keep his pawn on d2. Pardon me, his knight on d2 in order to protect the pawn on e4, and soon he will try to play his knight back on a good square c4.
Castle queenside. I really like the way Wei's been playing this, actually.
Yeah.
Don't sense that white has even a bit of a nibble.
I studied the games of Paul Carrez, and I have to tell you, I find white's position to be better. Bless you. Yes, I know. Hey, look, I've been the one nursing a cold quite some time. Go for it, Jovi. Don't worry. Bishop back to f1. That was rude of me. I apologize. Bishop f1. Now I'm giggling. Bishop f1 with the idea of knight to c4, and give me the pawn on e5. Yeah. Also, the real question is this knight on c6. It's rather stuck there, and I find advancing b4,
a4,
a5. Yes, yeah. Those moves, to my mind, are very, very attractive, and giving white advantage. Okay, Magnus has played it very slowly with the move knight b3. I think the intention behind this move knight b3 is to bring the bishop to e3 and bring the other knight around to the c4 square. Yep. A very, very different approach. I would be more caveman-like and have played b4 immediately.
And a5. Conceding the b5 square. Now, this doesn't look like it's a big deal, but it's somewhere where a knight can eventually appear, a bishop can come there, and well, you can't stop it. You can't stop that a pawn from advancing.
Yeah, but it's a double-edged sword, right? Because on the one hand, you advance your pawn on the a5. On the other hand, that is your king that you're releasing. So bishop comes to e3. Now, if you do play the move a4, and I'm not saying it's good or bad, I'll go back to d2. And I'll thank you. I'll thank you that you put your pawn on a4. I'll have bishop to b5 and maybe even b3 as a nibble.
a4 indeed played. Knight comes back to d2. And
I'm not a big fan.
One of the ideas that I've seen here is that this bishop on g7 doing nothing.
Yes.
Needs to get back into the game, so reroute it to f8 and put it on c5.
If you get that, I agree. That's a very good plan. Here we go.
But is on the same wavelength.
I will play the move b4, and I'll ask you, are you willing to open up the a file? If you are, again, it's that king on the queen side.
I was thinking of the words. God help you if you
Yes.
are. You do not want to be opening up the A line. I mean, then you're just giving whites perfect play.
Oh, bite your tongue. AV. Oh my goodness. Okay, this looks big advantage suddenly, Magnus. A very big advantage. Well, Wei Yi is inviting the rook to land on a8. Is that a pawn? No. The rook knight on d2 is hanging. I apologize. I was about to say rook check, knight on c6, back to b8, trade on c5 and take on e5. But I feel like this should be a material gain afoot here. Where's our material win? You start with a check.
Yeah, well, you can actually go bishop takes bishop first.
Okay,
knight takes, and now
b4?
Oh.
And then b5.
b5 comes.
And kick the knight.
Exactly, and the e-pawn is going to fall. Unless you're going to huddle up into a ball.
He's going to huddle. There's no choice.
But it's really, really ugly.
It is ugly. But he's seized the defensive.
Well, yeah. Indeed.
I don't like it. But now, Magnus, several thoughts come to mind. One is I really want to use that c4 square. So a move like bishop to c4, just to trade off the light squared bishop, take away the attack, the X-ray. Well, it's not even an X-ray. Take away the attack. Put the knight on a really nice square.
On c4.
Provoke c6 and
F6.
then provoke f6 and then reshuffle the knight to d5. Well, finally he put in the check, but he's delayed it for so long. He's actually given Wei Yi a choice. A long time ago, there was no choice. The knight on c6 had to block the check. Now he's thinking, knight on d7. What's your quick? Which knight?
I wouldn't have put that one.
Okay.
But maybe because it had to be done before. It would kind of, in terms of like calculation, you might just go for that one. And Magnus quickly doubling on the A line.
Just notice that knight b6, by the way, if you try to play bishop takes c4 and bishop takes c4, followed by knight b6, forking the bishop and rook, whoops, bishop e6 check, bishop to c4 to e6.
Well, knight b6.
So knight b6.
Were you trying to unravel?
Oh, it's not nice, that double pawn.
No, but
knight to g4.
Not the end of the world. They can't be attacked, and they will eventually hold off white's queenside pawns as well. But Magnus playing across the board, because suddenly the attention has switched over to the king side, as Jas is highlighting the pawn on g6 under fire.
You see, knights love outposts. I've said it thousands of times on the broadcast. And what's a natural outpost? The d5 square.
Yeah, well, he's heading there.
Yes, that's exactly right. The knight was on f3.
Trading off the protectors, just as you highlighted.
Exactly. No reason to trade, and Magnus's plan is very simple. He wants to trade and conquer, if he can, the d5 square.
So it's now time for Wei Yi to do something active. I thought maybe put the rook on d2, but he's put the rook on d7.
I don't know. Rook to d2 kind of encourages bishop c4 and knight to knight.
I just wanted activity.
I understand.
Yes.
And
okay, well, bishop c4 played anyhow.
Of course, of course. I think Magnus could have included h4 before making this operation. It's just one of those little subtle things that...
Well, there's no doubt that Wei Yi is worse.
Oh,
but
by far.
He's covering the squares. He's played b5.
Be careful.
Knight
I think he's lost.
e7.
I think he's lost. Just rook a5.
Rook a5. Okay, the king will have to do some
c4.
footwork.
King c6, c4 resigns. Just lost. Rook a5.
Okay. But let's not forget the rook on d7 is active. So if you go rook a5,
yes.
I also have rook d3.
Rook d3.
Yeah.
Okay, rook takes b5, rook takes c3, rook to a7.
Well, Wei Yi, 39 seconds on the clock.
I think rook a5 is a winner myself. I don't see the problem, but Magnus, how much time does Magnus have?
Magnus is now just ticked under the minute mark, so he's on 54 seconds.
And for those of you joining us late, shame on you, but this is the battle for first place. Wei Yi leads the tournament by 1 point against Magnus Carlsen. He's on the defense.
And now Magnus, 40
seconds
on the clock.
No way. He's really...
Yeah.
He's looking at rook a5, but something about it didn't sit right.
Oh, he's put his
and he
rook
went
on
rook
h8. Sorry, a8.
Attacking the rook on h8.
Right. Again, Magnus is trying to play on both sides of the board. Yep. And Wei Yi playing rook to d8. You don't want to be trading off rooks. And knight to g4, attacking both the f6 and the h6 points. So knight g8 forced.
Rook takes d8, rook takes d8,
and now the
king
white
f1.
king is marching into action.
h5, knight to e3.
Knight.
And again, just a very, very nice ending. Magnus, rook a5 did not bring the desserts that Magnus wanted, so he just decided to improve the position of his king. f5, f3, let's go.
Yeah, and f5. What do you think about that move?
I
thought maybe...
don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it, but when you're sitting there defending, you start looking...
20 seconds, it's ticking down, it's now 17, 15.
Activity.
Okay, he's quickly calculated
Pawn
h4
don't believe
in order to get active.
I don't believe it. I don't think that's a good pawn sacrifice.
Okay, rook to h8.
Knight
yeah,
to
but
g2.
they often say that in endgames, if you get an active rook, that's sometimes enough to disturb your opponent. Okay.
Well, disturb for sure, but okay, now
11
we can
seconds.
take with the knight. Ooh, we took with the pawn. Rook to g, inviting.
King marches in.
Rook to g7. Oh, sorry, rook to
Okay.
g5. So the idea was knight takes f5 or rook takes
Oh,
f5.
very nice trick there from Magnus, but Wei Yi simply calmly captures the pawn on h6.
Calmly?
Yeah, but look how calmly the players are playing with just seconds left. You see Wei Yi making the move, 7 seconds on the clock. He's relying on instincts, where to put the king, and Magnus keeps on asking him questions.
Well, a very nice advantage, I want to say, for white.
Now the rook moves.
But he hasn't won
And
material
Magnus
yet.
repeating moves, but those queenside pawns are weak. A
Oh,
knight will appear on c5. The rook is threatening to come to d7 to win. Okay, now rook to d7.
Yeah.
Grab the b pawn.
That's a big one.
And the b5
That's a
pawn
winning
will
position.
fall.
Winning position for Magnus. Now, will the luck of Wei Yi... Oh, no! He walked into a fork. And Wei Yi's luck just ran out as Magnus Carlsen reasserts himself. Like I said, it's all about the battle for third place. Let's see what's happening with Prague. Where are you? Nope. All
games have completed, but that was...
What happened between Arjun and Prague?
Well,
Arjun won.
Arjun won.
Arjun beat Pragnanda. Okay, so everything is changing hands.
Well, we knew that with 9 rounds of Blitz. Come
right,
on.
we have Magnus Carlsen and Wei Yi now tied for first.
Absolutely. Over to you, Nasi. Highlights of a very crucial round.
Yes.
We had a smile there from Magnus.
Yeah, he finally caught up with the leader.
Yeah.
I think they were co-leading in the first 2 days, and after that Wei Yi took over, right? So
Yes.
Of course, Magnus must be very happy.
Right.
So I have some highlights from 2 other games, Duda and Giri.
Duda and Vincent?
Duda and Vincent, and then the Giri's game.
Okay.
Yeah, so this was the Rui Lopez with bishop c6 variation. And Duda got such a convincing advantage that it's making me think to start playing this opening.
Yeah, exactly.
So in this position, it looks like black had to take on f3 and play g6, which seems a little bit weakening, but it had to be done because if you allow knight on f5, it's a very unpleasant position for black. So it did happen. Vincent allowed knight f5, so bishop g6 was instead played. Knight f5, he had to capture. And the problems are pretty serious here because black cannot really castle because of this e-file.
Nice.
If you castle right now, you're not losing the bishop, but you're losing most likely this pawn because you have weak double pawns. Instead, knight f6 happened, bishop f4, trades, and what do you do here for black? Yeah. Absolutely terrible. You can't castle, c6 is hanging, there's trouble on e-file. So he played king d7, looks like the only move, but now this tactic rook e7 wins an easy pawn for white.
Nice.
Very healthy pawn, actually, on f5, and it's also an open position, and bishops are typically better than knights, and this is the case here as well. So he, straight from the opening, he won this game. Absolutely no issues. He never gave Vincent any chances. We didn't see many games like this in the Blitz where players got an advantage out of the opening and won a smooth game.
From start to finish is so hard.
So that was the case here. And let's take a look at Giri. Nodirbek just lost his game.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. So a lot of queens there on that one, the final
yeah,
position.
the end was absolutely crazy and time trouble. Let me show you. Here was a critical moment. I thought Anish was going to play knight h5. So they had this middle game with 2 knights against 2 bishops. And knight h5, bishop e5, e4 was very interesting, threatening queen g5, queen d8, and all these tactical ideas. If you play d takes e, check. There's no immediate checkmate with queen d8 because black simply covers up with bishop e8. However, white has a better move. Knight takes f5, more tactics. E takes f, rook takes e7, and to be fair, white's last rank is pretty weak, but queen is very well placed protecting the c1 square as well. So of course this would be completely winning. However, black is not forced to take. They do have this move f4, just sacrifice a pawn, and game continues, but white's up a pawn, 2 knights versus 2 bishops. Then it seemed like Nodirbek was coming back into the game. Here, if he just played h5 or even traded on c2, position is equal. Evaluation is just close to triple zeros when I was analyzing. But then mistakes began. King g6 happened. King d6 happened. Anish should have played g4 and started creating a pass pawn on the king side. A lot of maneuvering here with knights and bishops, but let's take a look at the final position. We don't see 2 queens on the board very often, but yeah, I think Anish wasn't having the best tournament, so this is an important win against a player who was trying to play for the 3rd place.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we toss to Poland, let's just take a look at the very wry smile that Magnus flashed after finally catching up to AE.
Yeah. He's made up a 2.5 point deficit.
Wow, yeah. He's feeling good. 2.5 points to make it up in such a short period of time. Anyway, let's jump to Poland and see their highlights.
What do you mean, finally, Yasser? He caught up in 4 games, 2.5 points in 4 games. This is absolutely madness coming from Poland. Just incredible play by Magnus, showcasing that he is the current world champion in Rapid and Blitz yes. as well. Anastasia, what game were you looking at?
I was checking the game between Kirill Shevchenko and Gukesh, and I must tell you that it was everything you could find in this game. At the beginning, they played quite solid, and you can see in this position, everything is more or less even. Yes. And then I think Kirill started to play a little bit more defensively for some time, and Gukesh took some time, and he managed to get pass pawn at one point, like before. Is very dangerous pawn, yes. definitely. And then he was like outplaying his opponent, it seemed, but something went wrong at a certain point, and he allowed this crazy c-pawn, yes, to start running. Yes, so he took this knight on b3, but actually Kirill was right to push the pawn forward, and he got really good chances. Bishop f5, the only move to defend, and after queen c5, which was inaccuracy, he found this bishop c8, making sure that the pawn at least is not moving for some time.
Backwards move, very
exactly. Yes, it's normally hard to find them, and now we have these two pieces against the rook situation, and look what happened. Here, Kirill lost the track. Here he played like a couple of moves, you know, trying to get rid of this queen. b3, of course, a very good move. If you have passed pawns, you have to push them. And after rook d2, knight e4 came, and he actually lost in one move this position. After knight e4, it's just over.
Yes.
So, I mean, both of them, they didn't have time. They played on seconds, and it's obviously mistakes are coming.
The rook fighting against the two pieces, it's very difficult, especially with only, as we can see, 6 seconds on his clock.
Yes, exactly. Position was difficult. Yes.
I was looking at this game between Arjun and Pragnananda, and Arjun continues his streak. Take a look at this. Pragnananda, look at this. Knight f3, knight f6, c4, knight c6.
Knights, yes.
Why not? Let's have some fun, right?
Yes.
But this allows white to get the initiative. d4, some opening advantage,
exactly,
right? That knight on c6 is not looking great. But it seems like Arjun definitely knew how to handle this position, despite the fact that he was probably surprised by his opponent. And in fact, he only got a very nice strategical edge. He didn't try to go for the kill immediately, right? Try to punish this knight c6 early on. He just wanted a long-term advantage, and that's exactly what he got. He got a structural advantage. You see that weak pawn on c6 yes, as well as the pawn on a7 highlighted right there. So rook to b6, and after b4, queen to e3, bishop to f5, white is doing the right things. Rook to c5, I'm attacking your pawn on e5. I'm getting ready to go rook from f1 to c1 to attack the pawn on c6. One of them will fall at one point. And in fact, after e4, bishop takes c4, immediately it fell. And unfortunately for black, for Pragnananda, he was never able to get back in this game. Arjun played a master, fully played strategical game, I have to say. Rook to c2, c7, rook to d1, rook to d8. Now we see
queen
some
f5,
tactics as well. And queen to f6. There's no way for you to defend against the checkmate. Rook to h8. Beautifully calculated by Arjun. He's really playing good chess. Pragnananda also, they're fighting for that third position.
Arjun is very famous to be a great chess player. I remember Levon Aronian was telling that he is always rooting for him. He believes that he's really
Fabiano
good.
also thinks that Arjun is the next in line, but I have to say it's still the Magnus show, especially today. Right now, this is the Magnus show. Back to you in the studio, guys.
Thank you. And yes, indeed, it looks like there's been a shake-up in the leaderboard. So let's take a look at the standings. Because Magnus, with his 7-win streak, finds himself there tied for first place with Wei Yi. He's made up a 2.5-point deficit in just 4 games. That's unbelievable. Arjun Erigaisi is now tied for third place alongside Pragnananda. Both of them are on 16 points, but not far from them. It is Jan-Krzysztof Duda on 15.5 points, and don't count out Nordebek Abdusattarov, who is there, 14.5 points.
And drill down on our tournament leaders. Tell us more.
Absolutely. And there you can see the line score. So yesterday, Wei Yi had a phenomenal day. 7.5 points out of 9. He went on a 5-win streak. And it was Magnus Carlsen who had that blip yesterday. But today, take a look at that. Magnus winning 7 games in a row. Whereas for Wei Yi, he's lost 2 games now.
Yet just having lost this round 13 to Magnus. And tell us about the pairings for this upcoming round
14. Yes. Vincent Keimer will have the white pieces against Magnus Carlsen. Wei Yi has the white pieces against Anish Giri. And Nordebek Abdusattarov plays one of his rivals for third place, Arjun Erigaisi. Pragnananda plays Kirill Shevchenko, and Gukesh plays Jan-Krzysztof Duda.
Now see, those line scores that we just saw, some incredible number of decisive games, and Magnus on a tear.
There's like only 2 draws from both of them.
Crazy. What's going on?
Well, like I said, those 2 players are going to keep winning until they play each other. But actually now I think I saw the pairings, this Vincent and Anish are playing the leaders. So these two players are at the bottom of the field, but they could try to play a spoiler because they have nothing to lose. And in Blitz, everything is like so random that they definitely have a chance.
Right. The game we just witnessed between Magnus and Wei Yi, for my money, that was advantage White, advantage Magnus out of the opening. He kind of kept it, He didn't do much, but then at the end, it was like it was clear. There were weak pawns on b5 and b7,
this is traditional Magnus. This is the
Magnus.
formula, right? You know, he gets a slightly better position, puts pressure, the opponent cracks, and this was just a review from yesterday.
The contrast.
After Magnus Carlsen lost a winning game against Nordebek Abdusattorov. You can see the anger, and even earlier than that, the shock when he found out that he blundered his queen.
It was
Physically, he recoiled and he jumped in his chair.
And this is the new Magnus of today.
Yeah, this is Magnus.
That was Magnus yesterday. This is Magnus today.
At his best, right? In full control, getting the comfortable positions he wants. And there you do see him discussing with Wei Yi. But I like that wry smile.
At the end, as he walked towards.
As he walked away.
Yeah.
Was his 7th or 8th win in
Seventh. And if he wins, it will be his 8th win in a row. And we've been told that's called a Cinco hat trick. So 5 plus 3. So, you know, they don't have any more fancy words. But I wonder what happens if you win 10 games in a row.
We need to invent new words for Magnus.
Exactly.
Yes.